All right, welcome everyone. This is our third, I guess, remote meeting here with LOPSA ETENN. My name is Ben Taylor. I'm one of the co-organizers for LOPSA East Tennessee, along with Andy Cowell and Aaron Hahn, as well as our founder is here to join us tonight. So what I'm going to do here, I've actually already started recording. The last couple of times we did this, we didn't hit the recording button. But it asked me actually when I started the presentation, do I want to record? I said, yeah. So it started recording. But anyway, so right now I think we've got, I'm going to look over here at our, give me just a moment here while I try to, all right, here's our participants. Okay. So in our chat here, if anybody has an announcement, would you let me know in the chat, and I will promote you momentarily as a speaker, and you can give that announcement if you like. I'm gonna give it a second for somebody to chat that out. Going once, going twice. Welcome, Ann Reeves. She just chatted. She's not an announcement, but she's new, and that makes her the most important person in the room tonight for all new people, right? Welcome. Okay. Well, I don't see that we have any announcements at the moment, but I would like to say that we also have a meeting after the meeting. This meeting ends exactly at 8. It will shut us off actually at 8. And then after that, we have an after party event, which you should have received a link to. If you haven't, give me a shout over NoxDev Slack, and I can send you that link as well. But it's the after party, so please join us there for that. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to our speaker, Jesse Trucks. Let's see here, Jesse. Can you click on present and join? I think I should be able to click on your name here.
Working on it.
There he is. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and hand this off to you, Jesse. Note, folks, if you have questions, there's a Q&A over on the far right. You can click on the little Q&A tab and send us questions. And maybe from time to time, I'll jump in with Jesse and relay that question if you like. So I've lost Jesse now.
And I'm back.
There he's back. And he's back. All right. So handing it off to Jesse. Everybody, give a round of applause to Mr. Jesse Trucks, our co-founder and one of our fearless leaders. Oh, we have a hand raised here.
Okay.
Oop. That was Andy. Andy, did you raise your hand? Oh, that was a clap. That's what it was. The raising of the hand was clapping. Okay, excellent.
What's the sound of one hand clapping?
That's right. Exactly. That's what it is. All right. Thank you, guys. All right, Jesse, take it away, man.
All right. Just a moment here. I have to figure out. Terribly sorry, I didn't get a chance to test one aspect of this thing. So I'm working on getting my presentation up. So
1 second,
welcome everybody.
Sorry about that. Let me get out of here.
Okay.
There we go. Okay, I'm out.
All right. Let me just close something. And I'm used to Zoom or WebEx where you can share just a thing rather than the whole screen. So I'm adjusting quickly. Very quickly, in fact. So I hope everybody is having a less stressful quarantine than the average, I guess. It's kind of hard to say that with a straight face, right? So tonight I'm going to talk about a little bit about the things that we've done in terms of we've gathered. Caveat to anybody who wasn't here last time that there's some time where Ben and I sucked at gathering data, and somehow we managed to lose like a bunch of data. So we have like a year and change where we have no data for a number of attendees. But we are working on that very actively. And so in just a few seconds, I will have all of this stuff. I should probably close all my SSH sessions. So this is a new, relatively new portal format that I think is very interesting. And let's see if I can maximize this window here so you don't see my 10 billion screenshots. There we go. And how do I do this? Which screen does it share? The wrong one. That's interesting. Okay, so if you have two windows, you have to be picky about how you do this. Is this the right one? That's the right one. Okay. It's a little weird that the way it works. Here we go. Sorry about the problems so far. And that is definitely not showing the right screen, is it? Okay. Hopefully everybody can see the actual screen that you should. So community in time of crisis. Every year, annually on our inception month, I do some sort of a talk about community. So quick agenda, a little bit about me, 8 years of ETENN by the numbers. I'd like to provide a few stats, and then I'm have almost nothing else in terms of slides. Those of you who know me, I either have a bajillion slides or I have very few. Usually I try to go for very few. No walls of text, that kind of thing, right? And then we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between community and person, what's that like? And then I'm going to talk about how that's different online and some of the ways that we can think about building and connecting with community. Some of us have trouble with that, connecting with friends, family, especially colleagues in professional setting that aren't coworkers. Not all of us have worked remotely for most of our careers. So I'm Jesse Trucks. I work at Splunk. I'm the Minister of Magic. Hold on, I just realized I have no way to get any feedback on what people may or may not be showing. So I think I'm going to have to do this.
I can relay that to you also if you need to. If you wanted to focus on the presentation, I can relay questions.
Here. There. Now you can still see what I'm doing, and now I can see if anybody flags me. Sorry. I think that'll work fine. So I've been in Knoxville. I moved here in December of 2010, and I've lived in the West Knox area the whole time. And generally, I would say, let's see if that works now. There we go. Generally, I'd say sorry, stupid computer. That won't work. Okay, so generally, I'd say I've traveled a fair amount in this region. I like to drive. I like to go places. I've done a lot of things, but being sort of central to the metro area has been great. And I first came here to work for Oak Ridge National Laboratory to do cybersecurity for the supercomputer group. And then I was the IT operations, cybersecurity team lead for the IT security operations team at ORNL for the whole lab. For a while, I was there about 3 years. Started getting itchy about working for the government, not because I didn't like it, but because I like to get things done quickly. Everybody kept telling me, but we do things so fast here. I'm like, but I'm used to doing things really fast. And I got a great opportunity for another company, did that for a year, and then I came to Splunk. I've worked at only 3 companies since I've been here, but I've worked for a number before. I'm from Madison, Wisconsin originally. I've been doing IT operations, security operations about 23 years, roughly, and founding member of LOPSA. Cute anecdote, is that I was the first paid member of LOPSA because I'm the one who set up the payment system for becoming member back when we founded a long, long time ago. And then subsequently, I spent 6 years on the LOPSA board of directors. I know we have, I believe, 2 local people who are boards on the LOPSA board now, I believe, right? Which is awesome. Lots of involvement in shaping our professional community. When I lived in Madison, Wisconsin, I created the LOPSA chapter there. And really what I did is I took what used to be the SAGE group, which is the predecessor to LOPSA. You can go on lopsa.org and read the history to find out what that means if you don't know. And then when I came here, last year I talked a little bit about the history of it, but basically I met a guy on IRC and I had made a mailing list to try to get people interested, and I didn't know where to have meetings. I didn't know anybody except for who I worked with at the lab. And so he said, hey, I know everybody and I know where we can have meetings. And here we are 8 years later. So a little bit about, let's see, how do we go to the next one in this stupid thing? Apparently I have to have the navigator open, which is fine. So a little bit of numbers. Notice it's gone all over the place. This smooths out some of the stuff with graphing the null points that we have missing data, like all of the January, all of the year of 2017, essentially. So I suspect that this would be a little bit more even and less of a downward trend. It'd be a little more flat, but still downward sloping if we had all of those filled in. But that info disappeared. And so you can see we've been all over the place, including well over 60 members, attendees. And we started our first one, I think it was 18 or 19 people. And until we lost our home a few years ago, we were averaging very high numbers. And if you look across our 8 years, the annual average of each year number of attendees, our peak was year 4 at 55, which is amazing because we had so many really, really high level attendance. It was great. I think this downward slope is largely to do with just people changing, students turning over, and then Ben, Andy, and I getting super busy, especially me being largely absent, very sadly, which is funny because now that I'm not traveling really at all for work, our entire company is grounded through the end of the year, effectively. I have plenty of time to show up for LOPSA, ETENN meetings, and now they're online. So even if I was traveling, I'd be able to come. The irony, right? But you can see that we still have pretty high attendance. So I believe our average right now is like 23 is our current year average. And our average over the whole 8 years, I think is right at 25. I had the stats open a little while ago. You can see, that's the running average throughout the whole 8 years is right here. Actually, sorry, our running average is about 34 or 33, I think. And so over time, we've had a very high amount of attendance on these meetings, and which is interesting because these kinds of meetings, professional association, local chapters, very rarely have large amounts of attendance over years. There's certain kinds that do in certain areas, some like your old VMware groups and stuff like that, or DevOps groups in certain market regions. And those are pretty amazing. But for us in a relatively smaller region, I think we're up to, in the Tri-County area, somewhere around 1 million population total. We all know that there's thousands of IT jobs, but in security, IT, et cetera, development, but having a bunch of people show up every month for years on end is really hard to do. And I really credit this to us building a community early on and fostering that idea and feeling of community and connection through time, which gets me into how does that work, right? So there's, so you have community in person, right? Everybody knows how this works. Y'all show up, have some soda, some types of events. You have a beer first, everybody eats, maybe there's hors d'oeuvres, in our case, usually pizza for years, for most of our time, actually. And somebody presents something, or there's an open discussion panel, etc. And we talk, right? And then afterwards, there's more socialization. There's this one event in Madison that is still going really strong. And even now with it remote, I was very tempted in the last meeting to join them remotely. And I might with the next. It's called High Tech Happy Hour. This started many, many years ago. It was long before I left the area. And it was like 23, 24 of us. I was at the like second or third meeting, and it was drinks, hors d'oeuvres, and networking. That's it. No presentation, nothing. And it was basically people in any high-tech kind of, biotech, biomedical, development shops, hardware manufacturers, IT people, security people, and bankers and investors and real estate agents and other people who cater to those of us in this high-tech industry. And it was to get people together, and whole startups started out of those meetings, right? And then it got to the point where they made you pre-register because the limit was 500 at the place. They'd buy out an entire bar and be an open bar and just like, socialization and things. And it got crazy. And the success that they had there was that they wanted to bring people together to meet and to network. And at some point they started adding these like sort of, fast, like short little 5-minute presentations where people do like 5 or 6 of them, right? Lightning talks is what we call it in the tech industry. And it's been extremely successful. It's been going on, I think, probably hitting right around 20 years that they've been doing that. It's amazing. So these are the kinds of, things that the way things work. And most of us are familiar with larger conferences or even smaller ones where you travel somewhere and everybody hangs out at the hotel all night. Hangs out in the hotel all night, that kind of thing, right? And so that's how we're used to it, because we walk into a room or into a space, outdoor space even, and we sit down and we have a soda, water, beer, drink, whatever, coffee, and we talk, we hang out. There's body language, there's body cues. Those of us who talk a lot can be open. Those of us who want to kind of take a step back and we're real shy and more introverted, or we're nervous because we don't know the group, or we're just tired as hell that day, we can sit back and we can be a member and a participant without hardly speaking. You can smile, laugh, look concerned, whatever, your facial expression, your body language, you can have brief chit chat. And that's how we can interact, even if we're not doing a heavy amount of like speaking and, like deep listening and active listening kinds of things. And the big, big difference there is that it is not necessary to say a single word, and you can still feel like a participant in a community that way, in a way that is really, really hard to replicate without being physically in a space, right? Even if you never shake anybody's hand, don't give anybody a hug, because you can smile at them. You have individual eye contact. For some of us, no eye contact, but we kind of fake it a little by looking at people's foreheads. If you don't know that trick and you hate eye contact, look at people's eyebrows or their nose. It's close without being threatening to you or them, or without feeling like you're breaking some sort of a barrier, and it's very useful technique. Especially if you're nervous about speaking and you're standing in front of a room of people, do that. It's great. Because everybody knows if you're looking past them or in front of them. So like if you're looking down, there's always, of course, the conference name tag check. You think, oh crap, their name tag is hanging really low. I don't want to look at it. Or it's really hanging kind of high. It's by their neck. I feel like it's safe to read their name because I can't remember that guy. Is his name Jesse or Jason? I can't remember. I don't know about you guys, but my memory sucks and I always forget people's names. It's really bad. Head injury. I like to blame that, and then I get old. But this is how community works in person. That's very, very different from a lot of things that we are now currently experiencing. I think there's a way I can do a poll on this thing, but I'm not sure. So maybe Ben, is there a way to do a poll on this?
What do you mean? You say
like
poll?
like do like a poll that everybody can answer? Is that possible?
I don't know. I need to go to the brain trust here. We can raise our hands, is what Andy said. Okay.
Okay. All right. So, all right. So I see. I'm looking at the participant list, right? Okay. So, who here before the coronavirus turned our entire planet upside down and inside out? Who here routinely worked remote from their main job, like not in the office or and by yourself? Yeah, I see very few, right? Now, how many people, since the coronavirus has changed everything, are currently working remote, but still working? Yeah, I see a lot. Very different now, right? Yeah, see now we got half of us, right? And then how many folks, because you can't be on site, can no longer, that you're furloughed or you're working, or you have to go into the office. How about that? Who has to actually go into work, whatever work you do, whether you're in IT or security or you're not working in our tech field right now? Yeah, that's because Jonathan runs the company. All right, so you can see we have a variety of experience, right? So, full disclosure, I've spent most of my career not working anywhere near my coworkers. I worked at AT&T. So it was Ameritech. We merged. I drove an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours to work each day. There and back was 4 hours, 90 hour, like 3 to 4 hour trip from Madison, Wisconsin to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And it was 100 miles exactly door to door, I think it was, from my house to the office. And then after the merger and I moved, the funny part is I had this flat in this downtown apartment in Madison, Wisconsin, this flat, and I could walk out my back porch and reach out and I could slap the side of an AT&T building. Sorry, SBC at the time, Ameritech SBC. And then the SBC merger finalized. Our teams merged with a big team in St. Louis. And since pretty much all of us were remote from one another, they said, you can have an office in Madison. I had just moved 2 miles away. I could no longer walk to work. That sucked. But so then but then at that point, I never went into the office. I went into an office in a 10-story building in a tiny room with like 8 cubicles, 2 to 3 of us at most. And usually only one of us that were in that room at a time ever for weeks and weeks on end. And there's only 150 people in the entire building. It was like a wasteland. They were emptying the building and selling it. I think they might have sold it by now. I don't know. It's been years. And so I just stopped going to the office unless I was going to go sailing because it was by the lake. And so that began my remote career, really. And I've done remote work ever since, with rare exceptions. And at ORNL, it was primarily in person. There was this brief stint when I worked for DSHA research, managing supercomputers and for these custom supercomputer things called Antons. And I was the only person in the data center, 30,000 square feet, me and a big pile of 10 megawatts of power and a bunch of supercomputers. So it's kind of like working remote too. It's just that I went to a really, really, really big, expensive office with no windows. So it's kind of creepy. But now, so everything for most of us has changed to online. So even if whether or not we work with other people directly or remote, like I'm the only person who works at Splunk in this entire area. There's a few people in Nashville. There's a bunch of people. It's actually one in Chattanooga, and then there's a bunch in Atlanta, and I think there's 3 or 4 in Lexington. I think that's the closest we can get to Splunkers that are near us, except for me. But my job is, remote, or I got in a plane all the time anyway. Things are changing now. And so for me, what's different is I do only online instead of getting on a plane all the time, which is actually fantastic because those of us who've had to travel a lot for work and now we don't have to, our management's suddenly realizing that I can get 5 times the work done in a day or more if I don't have to travel, because I fly somewhere overnight, I'd fly in the evening for a morning meeting and I'd be there for an hour and then I get in a plane and I come home. You drop $500 to $1,000 for a 60-minute meeting, and I'm out of pocket for, half a day or a full day. If I went to the West Coast, it'd be worse. It'd be an hour and a half to 2 hour meeting, but it would take me 2.5 days on the wall because of, travel times and such. But now I just, we're glued to our butts and in our seats and working, right? And for those of us who are used to going to an office, it really changes our dynamic. Because a lot of us, part of our professional community are the people we see in their office, right? Now, in my case, in my team, we only see each other as a whole team 2 to 3 times a year. And this year, it'll be the one time we did in the end of February when I came home from Vegas with 104-degree fever. It was really not fun. My birthday present this year was being delirious out of my mind and with a fever. It was really funny. And so what we have to do now is figure out how to make those connections. For those of us who are introverts, outgoing or super introverted, Zoom, like a friend of mine, actually the co-founder of LOPSA ETENN, Mike Julian, I asked him how he's doing with the, whole quarantine thing the other day, a few weeks ago. And I asked him again recently, he goes, Jesse, I don't know if it's healthy how comfortable and normal this feels to me. There's some of us like, oh, this is awesome. I don't have to see anyone, right? And there's other of us just dying because we haven't seen anyone. We haven't been able to connect with people. And so we're trying to figure out as humans how to find that balance. And part of that balance is understanding how to interact with other people when you can't have as many physical cues, right? You can't just stand in a circle holding your cup of coffee, smiling and nodding to an anecdote, right? And then drift off to the next circle, and you now feel like you're part of that community, right? For those of us who are introverts, or you didn't want to interrupt the conversation, that kind of thing, right? How do you do that online? It's really, really hard. I talked to my piano teacher and friend, David. He said he had this reunion of a bunch of people he used to work with, and they tried him before. He was in Charlotte, North Carolina, and, I'm in Knoxville, so that's quite a ways away. And said it didn't really work that well online because there's like 23 people and, like the subtle aside jokes and things kind of thing. And, everybody's trying to talk over each other at once. And he said it really didn't work that well. And I think that this is actually what the remote platform is trying to do, is to fix that problem, because you can go to a table together and chat, right? Which is a paradigm that I find very fascinating. Drawback is one of the things we lose in that format is, everybody being able to just talk, who's been here for a really long time and they remember either me or somebody else being up there and you or somebody else got to heckle them, like drop a joke or something, everybody laughs and it's funny in the middle of a presentation. All right. That's part of our community, right? There's some history there, right? Exactly, Jonathan. And that's the kind of neat thing that you can do in those cases, right? Like right now I can glance at the, I keep doing this because I have progressives and everything else is on this big screen over here and it's too far away. Because I'm old, 48 now. I can look over and I can, comment about, the various folks who I see in here, right? But at a glance, I can't quickly facially recognize everybody in this format. And so that makes it harder. I'm also used to presenting in, we don't use the webinar format in the kinds of meetings that I have when I'm presenting and things for work most of the time. It's more of a regular meeting. So you get the Zoom tile like you see on the screen, right? So I'm used to seeing everybody. Even customers are turning on, and partners. I work mostly with public sector partners. Most of the people are turning on their videos these days. I lost count of how many times, the puppy is leaping up behind me and, yiping, and I have to pick him up. And who's had their kid, like Zoom bomb and come over to the side of the screen, like, right. And so these are some of the things that we can do to get this feeling of community, is in part, obviously, when you're in a meeting, be casual, have a few minutes. Like I met with some folks earlier today who I met some of them and in a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and a couple other folks on the meeting I had not met yet. And this was like a follow-up just to build this program we're working on. And there are people who don't work at Splunk, they're work for another company. And what I asked, did was that we just chatted for a couple of minutes, and right near the end when said puppy was yiping and I picked him up, right as we're wrapping up the meeting, everybody's like, oh my God, I got to see the puppy, and it's just like in a meeting in person, I'd be like, oh my God, look at this picture of my cute dog, right? All that kind of crap. And so we can do these human moments online, and it feels weird at first until you get used to doing it. So those of you who have not done it, try it. Just, you don't have to like bring out your dog or, like tell my kid like, hey, Tot, that's what we call him, Tot. It's his initials. We call him that when we're talking about outside of our house anyway. It's like, come on, look, I'm not going to put the kid on display, right? Unless it's somebody who's met and that kind of stuff. But just make anecdotes, funny things, like earlier, my first meeting of the day, I was actually sitting in my back porch and I was the only person in this area who was on the meeting. And it was it was like 10 or 30, 11 o'clock. So most folks, folks remember, hopefully you remember how nice it was out today. So I quite often use one of the like virtual backgrounds in Zoom. I just left it off. And so that's another thing you can do is make sure you're happy with the background. You can see my stacks of art and that's my Halloween costume. That's Mr. Doozlepuff, in case nobody's met him. And I've got my dad letters that my son and his nanny built for me like 3 years ago when he was too young to really do any art by himself, stuff like that. And just like, I used to have my desk set up differently. So Mr. Doozlepuff was like right over my shoulder and people would stop and go, what's up with that cat head? It's like, oh, that's Mr. Doozlepuff. I'm not sure where Buttercup went. I think he's taking a nap, but I've got like a little Buttercup Splunk mascot pony doll, and he used to be with Mr. Doozlepuff and you can make kind of, make funny things happen. And so a big part of this is learning how to build community is to just be personable. Don't just be hyper focused on the business at hand, which makes it's really easy to do that. But if we just take a few moments, because if you think about it, anybody who's been in a meeting of any kind, which is probably most of us, you walk in, you stand around or you sit down, even if you're late, and somebody will say hi to you, right? Or you chat a little bit beforehand. In the very beginning, might be like, hey, we got a couple minutes, we'll wait till 5 after until that's Jesse, who's always late, shows up. And you chat a little bit, hey, did you have a good holiday? Did you going on vacation this year? And then now if somebody asks me that, I break down crying because we can't do our beach vacation we normally do, and just chat. So try to replicate these personal human experiences online. Another thing you can do is make more connections by just scheduling time with people. I actually, one of my coworkers, he every couple of weeks when he's got a day where he's just doing project work and he's not buried in meetings, which is rare. And he'll just send out a link to an open Zoom, and he just has it open, video on while he's working, and people like drop in and come in and leave. It's kind of like, like a lot of the more modern offices where there's like a community space and people go like sit by the hangout couches and they're doing work, but they can chat, And so one day I was baking bread, so I dropped in there while I was doing a project and, set it up while I was baking bread. I've gotten on the Zoom connections with folks and while I'm roasting coffee, total passion of mine. You can save a lot of money once you break even on the machine. It's a lot of fun. The other thing we do for our team, and this is something for those of you who work in a team that's normally together but is remote, we have what we call Thirsty Thursdays, and so every Thursday evening, it's an open Zoom for all the people in the security groups, in our large, plus a few extra people who we like, can get on the Zoom, and we just hang out, have a drink, whatever. And there's people from all over the country. Generally, usually we don't get people from other countries because, like outside of the Americas anyway, because just for timing. It's not their evening. It's in the middle of their night, unless they're coming back from the disco. And so do those kinds of things. And actually there's a bunch of us, we have, actually it's tomorrow morning this week. Usually it's on Thursday. I know this colleague Lily has tea time. So she has tea time in the morning, and it's just an open hangout for an hour where Kelly's in London, Lily used to be in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. Now she's in Colorado. Devani doesn't even work at Splunk anymore, but she's in the Bay Area and works. She's like a VC manager, fund manager or something, and we just hang out, and it's really, really neat. So we talk about work sometimes. We toss ideas around, and in that case, it's like cone of silence, like what happens at tea time stays at tea time. So, like Lily had a fantastic idea for a project, and she's like, don't steal my idea. I'm like, of course not. I'll just help promote you when you get, promote your idea when it happens. And just make time to connect with your friends and your colleagues. Like there's a friend of mine, he and I, we go way back. He lives in Wisconsin. Our whole lives are basically done through text. It's because the two of us have basically lived on Zoom for years, or WebEx, and we're just tired of doing it by the time he and I want to talk in the middle of the night or in the evening. And so one day I asked him, like, hey, if you want to, he was just getting to roasting coffee. I'm like, if you want to Zoom or chat while you're doing your first batch, let me know. And he's like, no offense, brother, but I spent 4.5 hours today on Zoom, and that was a light day. I really don't want to talk to anybody. I'd rather type. And that's okay. But find ways to do that. Now, speaking of text ways to do that, one of the things you can do, right, of course, text communities. I couldn't find a decent, I had not made a screenshot that was safe to share from my own IRC. So, but, as used to be IRC, very similar to Slack idea. I think I have, let's see, on my Mac, only about 7 Slack groups, but I think I've got 12 on my mobile. We'll find out. Let's see, how many do I? 1, 2, 3, 4. About 15. And so one of the things that a lot of folks are starting to discover is Slack groups are becoming very, very prominent and regular. And we even have one for a bunch of our friends, and so we'll drop in and we'll chat, and I talk to various folks. We professionally use it for work, of course, and we have 3 different Slacks that we use for Splunk work that's official. One for our community, in fact, and that's how a lot of us who normally would see each other at various events. I'd see, Dwayne at one time and George another time, both of them, and plus a bunch of other folks who I love to hang out with at a different conference. But now we're not going to see each other all year. And so as a result, it's Slack. And so one of the things you can do is create a community. It's funny, I totally forgot to add it, but we actually have a Slack called ETSA. And I will, let's see, what is it called? ETSA chat.slack.com. I'll put it in the our Q&A thing here in the chat window. But if I can type, I've got 2 keyboards here. And we basically just, the formation committee for ETSA has used it very, very sporadically for a while. And we can find others like Knox Devs. I think I'm on that one. I haven't checked in a while. And you can use those as ways to connect people. I'm not going to see the DEF CON folks this year because DEF CON's canceled. It is actually canceled this time. In fact, I believe I might even have, oh yeah, and I just bought this picture. It's DEF CON logo with a safety mask on. It's really awesome. just arrived. But so the other way that we can do this is create channels in whatever community you're working in, whether it's professional or unprofessional. That did not come out okay. Professional or personal, or social. Create a channel for whatever it is you want. Like in almost every Slack larger group community thing I'm in, there's an EDC, everyday carry. If you don't know what that means, if you really don't know what that means, don't bother joining, or joining, find out. And then don't worry, it's safe for work. And the other one is, of course, puppy channels. The one I like to use at Splunk is called pup dates, and people just post pictures of their dogs all day long. There may be a cat channel, but I'm not a cat person. So even though I own one, but I don't live with a cat because I'm allergic. So he lives at my friend's farm. And so people just post dog pictures, all day and that kind of stuff. And it's really interesting to see what happens. And the other thing is, even if you're just using Slack, IRC, Microsoft Teams, whatever the chat interface you're using for work or your community, then what you can do is just be personable. Like in our team channel, we don't have an off-topic channel for our own team, for our small team, or for our larger security group, because we're global. There is an off-topic one, we call it, water cooler, right? Blah, 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 dash water cooler. Funny enough, there was another one called Road Warrior, and we decided that all COVID-related things have to go in the Road Warrior channel because we're not talking about travel anymore anyway. And then Water Cool, that cooler is for everything other than that, the whole coronavirus and anything related to its off topics for that one. And then I'm just catching up on the brief chat here. And so the other thing you can do is go seek people out, go seek out communities. There is a Slack for everything. In fact, I discovered through this a variety of news articles that all pointed to a Slack for people who have had or directly interacted in some fashion with coronavirus. They have had it, recovered themselves, positive antibody testing, whether they've had any symptoms, people who have relatives or friends or close people to them, and somehow their lives have been affected very directly beyond that, like the one that most people are, where frontline workers are, stuck going to work, like the heroes of are the real true heroes of our society, which are people who feed us and drive stuff to us and teach our children. Because any of us who have kids and suddenly had to be homeschool and full-time worker, and some of us also full-time or part-time school on top of it, had suddenly discovered that teachers are amazing. And dear God, please have a safe way for my kid to go to actual school where I don't have to try to homeschool.
Hey, Jesse, we have a question over here from Aaron.
Yeah.
Look in the Q&A. How does one get an invite to that Slack, to etsachat.slack.com? Or is it just for the formation committee?
It's not just for the formation committee anymore, because it never really was. We just had a channel for that, and we just never really advertised it. And I thought that this might be a really good opportunity to let people know it exists. I guess what I'd like to do is what we've done with the Splunk community is have like a form or something, but I haven't looked into what the right way to do that is. Right now, it's not open for anybody because I think we can make it that way, but I'm not sure how. So in the meantime, you can email me at jtrucks@etsa.tech, which was way back here. Or if you can't remember that, I am the Minister of Magic at Splunk. You can email me at mom@splunk.com. or ministerofmagic@splunk.com. Either of those work too. And I would love it if, and like, other geeks in the area, just, I'm going to, tonight, I'm sometime by tomorrow morning anyway, I will go and see what the new way of having people I think you can just fill out a form to request access. If you turn that a feature on or something with Slack. I'm help manage one of our work Slacks, but I didn't ever have to change that part of it. So I will see if I can get it open so people can just go, and then we'll have Ben and Brad do their magic to send the information out to people so they know how to get on it. Does that sound good, Ben? Wesley. Yes, I am your Splunk mom. I actually had a coworker said, "Does that alias actually work?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm your Splunk mom." And I said, because I tell people that they can email me at mom@splunk.com, and everybody can spell that. And everybody laughs and remembers it. And so she had to send me an email to prove it to herself. It was kind of funny. We like to have fun at work, even despite the fact that we're now a larger company. Almost 6,000 employees, 5,997 as of earlier today when I looked. But no, I do not bake cookies. My wife's better at that, but I do actually bake a loaf of bread a day. Most of the time, I don't have a lot of time, so I cheat and I use a bread machine. I've tried a variety of recipes. I'm working on better quality by hand, but I just don't have a lot of time to do that. But I will roast your coffee. And if anybody is super interested in roasting coffee or what it's like, I'll create a Coffee Geeks channel in our ETSA chat for that, because I love it. I do it all the time. In fact, I roast half a pound at a time, which gets us through 2 days at my house. I drink a bulk of that. And so every two days I roast. The other day I roasted 2 batches so I could get through 4 days, which means I can get through tomorrow, and then I have to roast more coffee tomorrow. Otherwise, the mornings sometimes suck. I wake up at 5:30ish, trundle downstairs, dump the puppy outside, and then I think, oh dear God, I can't drink any coffee until I roast some. So that's a bad day. Awesome. So we're about to get booted from this meeting. So does anybody have any particular questions? Aha, here's a Q&A. All right. So where do you get your green coffee beans? Aha, I get them from, now my preference actually is from Berman Coffee Traders, and they're in Madison, Wisconsin, and I do love their product. Actually, I just bought 60 pounds of their Rwandan from the same lot. It's really, really good stuff. If you buy in bulk, you get about 25 pounds and up, you get a significant discount. So it was less than $6 a pound. Yes, and matter of fact, Anne, I did, in fact, we did try to do ballroom dancing at Let's Dance. And then we decided that the logistics were a pain in the butt, and that we had a lot of fun. So I suspect that that's probably where we've met. And, but yeah, so Berman Coffee Traders, another place is Sweet Maria's. My very first roaster is from Sweet Maria's, sweetmarias.com. They've got great stock also. Both of these companies look like they've never seen a real website in their life, but it doesn't matter because they sell coffee stuff, roasting stuff, making stuff. It's great. And if anybody's interested in doing roasting, there's a billion ways you can do it, including literally a hot air popcorn popper. The woman who runs the piano tutor company I use, it's called Traveling Music, I think it's called. I have to go look it up right now, of course, because of my crappy memory, I can't think of it. But anyway, she roasts it with this contraption. She's such an engineer, it's amazing. So she basically has like a air fryer and like a fan and heating element from a convection oven and like some other gizmos in there. And then when it's time to cool down, she uses a hair dryer to cool it down to stop the roast process. Can't wait. Someday I'd like to actually go to her house and see it. It'd be great. But I just use a commercial system that works great for me. And although I did light it on fire like 3 times in a week, since I was really rusty when I opened it up a few weeks ago. Any other questions before the system boots us out and we get back on the next one? Although it might be good, Ben, if you could, I got to check my email actually to see if I have an invite to the to that other meeting too, so I can get back on here.
I can send that your way if you'd like me to. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's like Aaron said. If you register, you can just go straight to that link.
That's what I thought. Okay. Yeah. Yes, I'm getting emails. Wow, I actually read them. Yeah, I don't think I actually have the invite for the meeting after this. If you don't have it, Ben, what's the best way for somebody to get on that? Is there a URL, just a generic
just go,
URL?
and Andy just put it in the chat right now. General chat, just click on that link and it should take you straight there. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. There it is. I see.
All right.
I'm going to copy it. I'm going to copy that link now. Any other last questions before we switch over? And I'm happy to jump into for a little while anyway, jump into one of the other tables. And if any of you have been around, for those of you who've met me and I've actually managed to be able to come out afterwards, you'll probably remember I'm either exhausted and I sit in one place, or most of the time I try to flit when there's more than one table to flit. But I make a very bad butterfly.
All right.
And when I'm no longer sharing my screen, I will open up Slack and send some invites.
Nice. So I'll go ahead and stop the recording here, and we'll break back out into the main floor space, and then we'll head on over to the other meeting. How about that?
That sounds fantastic. Thank you, everybody. And again, you can email me, jetrucks@etsa.tech or mom@splunk.com, and I'll hopefully see you on the chat. And
everybody raise your hands to clap. Nice. All right. Excellent. All right. Thank you very much, Jesse.
Thank you, and Ben, for making everything happen between you and Andy. This thing actually runs, and Brad, mostly behind the scenes, but can't forget Brad.
Aaron Hahn for representing LOPSA National on the board. Yeah.
Oh, yep. Yeah. Awesome. And also thank you everybody who, whether this is your first meeting or your 74th, I think we actually have, I think it is 74 meetings that we've done. And actually, no, we've done more than that. We've done 8 years minus like 3 times, I think. Thank you very much for participating and being a member of this community. Even if you've never talked to somebody else, you are part of this community. This community is for us, for all of us to share. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
All right. See you guys. Thanks.